So this grid pattern is different than the other pieces. My best suggestion with the creating the tentacles for this creature is just to cut down the middle of the tape. That way you don't even have to worry about following those lines. You could just follow the tape itself. So you cut it in half, cut it in half, cut it in half. It's not too bad. And I just follow that all the way up. Now the really nice thing about this one is that you're going to be using 25% or less tension. And I'll show a touch of the fancy way that I use to get just a variety of tensions on the tape when I do this. Because the nature of the superficial fascia relative to the lymphatic vessels is that some are supposed to open when the skin is pulled in a particular direction or to a certain degree, and others open like somewhere in between all that. So you can have it all over the place regarding how much tension you use and even the direction that the tape goes in. Usually what you want is it to splay out and to be touching as much of the surface as possible. Because it's just like when I showed you with the fingers. Although the fingers are making contact with the skin in between the fingers is also being moved, right? So now I have this, and now every time the joint movement occurs, there's more tension under my hand. So you can feel that in yourselves. If you put your hand here, pull the skin a little bit, and then move the wrist, you'll feel more tension at where you're holding the skin. But it's also moving the stuff in between. So you want those tentacles to spread out. And I said it should be lateral or medial. If you're gonna pick one, if you had to do just one, it tends to be that the lymphatic fluid system runs a little bit more medial. If you're really gonna pick one, I would tape a little bit more on the medial side. But ideally we would do one on either. Now I'm gonna stand over here, and I'm not gonna follow that rule. I'm gonna tape lateral just so you can see it better, okay? So here, we'll bring this up. And with this, as long as you're not crossing the joint, and as long as the skin doesn't have like a weird wrinkle or crinkle or something, you don't have to worry as much about putting the skin on tension because you're not putting the tape on a lot of tension. This one's just the safest and probably the most effective. Along with the connective tissue thing is, you just do a plus sign or an H pattern or whatever. You can do another option with that looks like this. If you had a true just normal scar, here's the scar, evil, awful scarry thing. Put a piece of tape right over top of the scar. What a nice noise, God. So anchors here. Now that's lifting the scar this way, right? And then other pieces of tape with the anchor starting just on this side and stretching and pulling it this way. So anchor, anchor, meaning it's being pulled that way. Then we could do anchor, tape, pulling it that way. Tape, anchor, anchor, pull it that way.
And what's the tension on for the green tape that's going over?
All of that should be about 50.
Okay.
Just right smack dab in the middle. Because you want to be tugging on that superficial fascia enough to be stressing it, versus with lymphatic drain, we want it to just be doing a mild lift. So it's like we want to be affecting the superficial fascia, but not necessarily distorting it too much. With connective tissue or superficial fascia, like lengthening, we want it to take it in a few directions, but still allow freedom of movement. But at 50% tension, that, if you really just didn't know what direction is bind in all of it, that's the one to go to. Tape on top of it, or even just identify the scar and go in these horizontal zigzags, because that's the way it's going to get bindy, just predominantly like that. Now, dealing with this is the journey, is we have all these tentacles to deal with. So I have to pre-tear every single one of those. Like that. Yeah. Now the head is going to be an anchor, but then down at the bottom, this poor thing only has like one suction cup per tentacle. So it's going to be one anchor there, one anchor there, one anchor there. So this can be a little bit more of a journey to apply, but as long as you just do these one at a time, you'll be totally okay. So just like anything, I would set kind of where I want things to go. Now I'm not going to go right central. It wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but I'm going to go a little bit lateral. I'm going to scoop this up a little bit higher if I can. Okay, you're good. Okay. We're going to set the anchor first. It's a little awkward for me reaching across like this, so bear with me. All right. So that's where we want it to be drinking the water. I might have wanted that just a touch higher, but that's good enough. And usually this is what you'll see. It's the big swollen ankle to foot. So I'm going to bring a sock down if I can. Here we go. And we could come all the way down to where we're making contact with the actual, like around the ankle a little bit. Now here's a bit of my trick. I take one tentacle, I go about halfway, hold the backing in half, and then I'll just do little tugs like this, real small, as I iron it out. And I just know I'll get a whole variety of small tension patterns as I do that. So I'll just kind of tug, kind of, and I know that I'm getting just a small amount of tension, and I can kind of just steer that over. Okay, pulling off the rest of the tape, holding it. Just gonna have it kind of do a kooky little wiggle all the way around. Go as far medial as I can, then set the anchor at 0. Another one, let's take the whole backing off of this one. Whoop, that's where it goes wrong. We saved it. Then here, just not the most graceful thing, but these systems are disorganized with purpose, so that as you move, those little vessels are being opened and closed. So you get to either make these as beautiful and basket weavy as you want, or be chaotic with it. And realistically, the chaos is probably doing more. This is quite the journey reaching across like this. You can barely see what I'm doing. There we go. And then last one, I have her bend the knee for me. Just hold it there. You'll see just how much coverage you can actually get with this. And there you go. So we have that working, pulling in all of that, including the spaces in between. Another one over there where they even can cross over each other. Like these tentacles can weave over each other a little bit like that. And then you have to, of course.
I was gonna say, I got markers right here.
You got it. Oh, I have a magnifying glass. I would suggest a dry erase marker, not a Sharpie. So you it's part of the therapy right there.
There better be a lollipop with this too.
There. Done.